Chaos at Malta airport due to COVID-19 paper checks, a construction worker spotted hanging from a wooden platform in Bujiba, and an interview with PN candidate Joe Giglio. All this and more on today's episode of Lovin Daily. Hello Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. I'm Julian Bonnici. Joining me today is Tim Diacono. We've got an action-packed episode for you once again, and at the end of it we've got a really interesting interview with PN candidate Joe Giglio, so be sure to stay tuned. Tim, the first story, COVID-19 at the airport. What's happening?
Yes, well, as more and more European countries are scrapping or removing all COVID-19 travel restrictions, unfortunately chaos is still reigning at the Malta International Airport. More and more people are travelling now, confidence is picking up. However, the rules at the airport have remained as they are, which means that you have to present a vaccine certificate and a passenger locator form once arriving in Malta. What this is resulting in a lot of bottlenecks, especially when multiple flights land in Malta at the same time, because you have to leave the baggage reclaim area, go to the public health desks where they'll have to check your documents. This is causing delays, and another flight lands. Ultimately, it means there's a huge queues. People pack like sardines at the airport. Unfortunately, for some people, this is literally their first experience of Malta. This frustration of being packed with a group of strangers, just waiting to go to your hotel or to your hostel or to wherever, and it's not pleasant, right? It's instantly frustrating, and it doesn't even make sense anymore. I mean, it was debatable whether it ever did, but now when we see countries all over the place remove, like for example Ireland, Romania, the UK, the Netherlands as of tomorrow have abolished all entry requirements for all these vaccine certificates, all these PLF tests. Greece has scrapped the PLF as well. It just begs the question, like, why Malta is still far behind.
Yeah, no, I think what's really ironic about the situation, right? It takes you about an hour and a half, 2 hours to get from baggage claim to out of Malta's airport. You know, it's actually quicker to fly to Rome, you know, in that time. It's created a very funny situation over there. You know, you have public health, you have tourism authorities all jostling for control. Interestingly, all of this comes at a time where Malta, the Malta International Airport, MHRA, you know, all of these really crucial bodies are calling for an end to travel restrictions on the country. Obviously, just think about it a little bit. If you were abroad and you were planning your holiday to a Mediterranean place, where are you going to choose, right? You're not going to, you start looking where your money is going to spend. Are there going to be restrictions? Is it going to be tough to get out, you know, and stuff like that? So really, it's coming down to a choice that could affect, you know, our tourism product come the summer. On to our next story. Quite a shocking video emerged today. It was shared by Lovin Malta, showing a construction worker hanging from a wooden platform sustained by ropes in a construction site on Bujiba. The footage sent to Lovin Malta shows the man sort of hanging perilously while painting a wall without a safety harness, even at a point really where he's sort of hoisting up the platform, literally teetering right on the edge of the building. It could have been a really tragic incident. The person who actually sent in the footage, who wished to remain anonymous, said, you know, when will Malta ever learn? You know, I really don't want to see a person dying right before my eyes. Her quote was, you know, when he jumped from the plank to the wall, our heart stopped. We really thought he was going to fall off in the video. Obviously, as we all know out there, you know, these construction incidents are nothing new. There have been countless videos shared of these incidents, not to mention countless of fatalities. Unfortunately, this particular incident wasn't reported to the OHSA. So anyone out there watching at the moment, when you see an incident like this, please call them. It's the Occupational Health and Safety Authority. They will be able to act there and then, and unfortunately after the fact it becomes so much more difficult, particularly in a country where there have been so many fatalities, so many injuries, and nothing seems to be done, right?
Yes, absolutely shocking that these things are still happening. When I saw that video, like, my horn was jumped out of my throat, because it's literally one false move. All that needed to happen was it could slip, And he could have easily died, or else the ropes could have snapped. Anything could have happened, and that's it. This might have become the latest casualty. Absolutely shocking that this is still happening, and in broad daylight in front of everyone as well. Moving on, Maxine Arthard, a well-known actress, who you may know as under her former name Maxine Aquilina, opened up about something very personal to her, which was her experience with dealing with a miscarriage, which happened shortly after she got married. She was interviewed on the Trudy Care podcast show, and she said that I was kind of under an illusion of what life is because of what society makes out to be. You fall in love, you get married, and you have a baby, and then that's it. But it's not it, because sometimes there are hurdles on the way, and it's very difficult to know, to understand until you go to that chapter. And it's I recommend you listen to this interview or read about on Lovin Malta, because she goes into a lot of detail that I don't think my words can do it justice, but it is very powerful and good to see people speaking up about these sort of things, because there is this I won't say taboo, but this resistance of speaking up, of making your voice heard, and it's great to see people at least confront their demons and speak about it.
Yeah, no, that's totally right, Tim. You know, I think Maxine sort of sharing her story is really powerful, you know, to the countless women out there who also suffer miscarriages, you know, regularly. You know, I remember when Maxine first shared her story, you know, I remember so many friends actually telling me, you know, that when I had a miscarriage, it felt like it only happened to me, right? You know, so to hear those voices, to hear that support, you know, that, hey, you know, there are so many other women out there who it also happens to. It's very common, you know, it's a really nice show of support, you know, so really, you know, I know it's an ugly thing to talk about sometimes, and it should always be up to your prerogative whether you want to share it, but know that, you know, it's a common thing, and there are people to speak to about it who will be there and listen to you. Moving on a little bit, some election fun, if you may. PL candidate Rosiane Cotire actually publicly revealed she would like her boyfriend to ask her hand in marriage. This came during a little short, sweet interview with Malta Daily, you know, where sort of just, you know, discussing, you know, what's on her bucket list, and one of them she sort of cheekily said, you know, if my boyfriend is watching this, one of my items on my bucket list is for him to propose to me. So Cotire's boyfriend is Daniel Farrugia, you know, but he's sort of known as a businessman, as someone who works in real estate, and is the owner of the London pub at Smart City. A former Orme mayor, you know, Cotire was first elected to Parliament in the last legislature. She has become the youngest MP, however, has courted a significant controversy during her tenure, particularly with her associations to Jorgen Fenech. It was a little bit of a light-hearted news, but people obviously couldn't help themselves and point this out, particularly after a libel suit concerning her relationship. Tim?
I wonder what Mr. Farrugia is thinking right now, because it's kind of painted him into a corner, right? you have to respond to something like this, and yeah, but yeah, fun element of the election campaign. Finally, Lovin Malta has published its trailer for Equality from the Heart, which is a documentary that we're producing with the Allied Rainbows community about Malta's history on its quest to become a world leader in LGBT plus rights. It wasn't always this way. I mean, some people may seem it like that it was easy, but it was a arduous journey of activism, of misconceptions, of taboos, of cultural fights as well. And there were pioneers who paved the way for the current communities to enjoy life as it is today. And this is really recognizing this and celebrating it. And yeah, it's going to be published tomorrow on Lovin Malta's Facebook page, so stay tuned.
Yeah, no, be sure to check it out, everyone out there. The LGBTIQ plus history in Malta is actually super rich and diverse, like really and truly. The sad truth is none of us really know about it. For decades they were hidden. And this documentary really gets like an interesting look, really interesting insight, some amazing anecdotes from that period and the journey, as Tim said, all the way to where we are today. So be sure to check out the trailer online, and it's going to be playing next, and check out the full video tomorrow. After this trailer though, be sure to stay watching. We've got PN candidate Joe Giglio for a short interview.
Now we are so integrated, so included, that we are now gathering in little clusters, but we can sit anywhere. In the 70s and the 80s, yes, of course, it was much more difficult because we were all still coming out and we were all still thinking, oh, well, do we have the right to be who we are?
And I remember when JJ Mr. Bonnici told me li biex tkun gejja għażla.
I was mostly dominated by a Catholic environment. I was part of the altar boys.
There was so much fear and everything was so hush-hush.
For me, becoming a fully actualized gay person would become a monster.
A lot of the parties were illegal back then.
Yes, yeah. In fact, the police used to raid them.
We would be verbally abused.
In those days, you couldn't go to the police or anything like that. Probably you'd be the one who gets locked up and not them.
Sometimes even physically.
People were throwing stones, literally like throwing stones at us.
It was at the time that Putin was arresting gay people.
In fact, I think some of the pioneers were the drag queens, the female impersonators. They really had to put up with a lot of shit.
They kept reiterating the teaching of the Catholic Church without having any empathy whatsoever.
It was a moment when, it couldn't be ignored anymore.
They do believe that there is the need of change, and I want also to be an agency for that change.
I was never really interested in getting married as well. We're like, that's something for straight couples,
Am I ever going to get the chance to pop the question to somebody I love?
That's good. Welcome back to Lovin Daily. With me now is PN candidate Joe Giglio. Joe, thank you for being with me here today.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I would like to take the opportunity to compliment you on the film that you have made, on the documentary that you have made regarding the history of LGBTIQ. I think it's a great idea that you have come forward with this initiative. We have done a lot of progress in this regard. I still think we need now to make further progress insofar as mentality is concerned. Unfortunately, it's good to legislate, it's indispensable to legislate, but ultimately we need to address also the mentality of people and how we look at these situations to have integration which is more smooth and more complete. Well done indeed.
Thank you, absolutely, and you make a very good point here. Sometimes it's not enough to stop at legislation, but it's important, but also important to just keep normalizing it as well in our
exactly. So it's a question of educating, it's a question of integrating, it's a question of making people understand that there is absolutely nothing different or diverse. Sometimes discussing too much about someone might be worse, you know what I mean? So yes, I am fully in favor of these changes. But I really hope that now we also start changing even more mentalities.
Absolutely. So, Joe, let's go into your campaign. You're contesting the 9th and 10th districts, which are very hotly contested, right, with nationalist
candidates? Yes, the 9th and 10th districts are the most difficult districts for the nationalist candidates.
There's so many people contesting.
There are a variety of candidates, a lot of valid candidates. So yes, they are the most difficult districts for any candidate, especially myself.
Why especially yourself?
Because I'm new. It's the first time that I'm contesting this election. So my surname starts with G, so even more you need a lot of ones to remain in the race. As to whether I stand a chance or not, I don't know. I will just give my contribution and then let the electorate decide.
What's it going to come down to though?
What do you mean, sorry?
What's it going to come down to? Like, what will make people decide which MPs they choose from these districts?
Well, I suppose they have a valid list. They go through the list, see the credentials of the persons concerned, see what they are, what they offer, what type of persons they are. I mean, we've been around on social media, on social platforms. We've been in touch with people. We've been going to homes. We've been going on debates. We've been going on television. We've been writing articles, and then they make their informed decision on the basis of what they see in you, what you have projected to them, what you have brought to the table to them. Ultimately, that's the choice that they have to make. We as candidates have done our role in the sense that we have tried to be as present as possible on various platforms, on the streets, in the road, meeting people. It's a beautiful thing, meeting people. Obviously, you cannot meet everyone because the districts are enormous, like every district. And then they'll decide, I mean.
Do you see yourself as a favourite or an underdog?
In the next election?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just see myself as a candidate who is in the same situation as any other candidate who has put forward his name and whose name appears on the ballot sheet of the 9th and 10th district.
So let's talk about the election. March 26th, 4 days' time. Surveys are all showing that the Labour Party is going to win. The big question is, by what margin? Is the gap going to decrease? Is it going to increase, or is it going to stay very similar?
They will have to, first and foremost, the question you're putting to us is related to surveys. Please keep in mind that even in the last election, there were various surveys which showed various results. There were also surveys which were showing that the PN was going to win. There were surveys also in previous elections which gave conflicting results. So the survey does not necessarily mean anything.
But in terms of odds, in terms of who is the favourite, it's very indicative. It's not absolute, right?
No, it is definitely not absolute.
I saw an interview with Adrian Delia who compared it to when Birgit beat West Ham. So as in, like, everything is technically possible, but it's quite clear who the favourite is.
But let us not send out a message that because someone might believe that the result of this election is a foregone conclusion, therefore there is no need for us to go out to vote. There's no need for us to go and do our duty. On the contrary, precisely because the situation is what it is, and irrespective of what you might think, everybody still has a duty to go out to vote for those candidates which he believes are the most valid to be representing him in Parliament.
So Bernard Rick gave an interview to the Times of Malta yesterday. It was published today, and he said that he did make progress as leader of the PN, and that when he was asked about whether he will resign or if the gap stays a bit around 35,000, and he said you have to take into account that when I took over as leader, the gap wasn't 35,000, the gap was 70,000, 80,000, as indicated by a number of surveys. Therefore, if that's the benchmark, therefore I made significant progress. Do you agree with this? Do you agree that he did make this much progress since he became leader?
Well, I think yes, there was a lot of progress, not only insofar as numbers are concerned. I think there was a lot of progress insofar as the way the party is transforming itself, which is also relevant and which has happened throughout this last period. I think also when you look at the PN manifesto, you can see that a lot of work was done in order for the PN manifesto to come up with so many ideas which concern youths, which concern students, which concern self-employed, which concern businesses, which concern our environment, which concern our conditions at the places of work, which concern creating new economic niches which will be so relevant. So we have also worked as a party to contribute our ideas. Now, whether you are in government or not, but you have still come up with ideas, and I'm sure that if ideas are good, anyone can take them up. We have already seen in the last situations ideas which Natchez Party came up with, which were taken over by Labour, and it's good. And you are also contributing in that way. I will give you simple examples. I will give you examples on the emphasis which the Natchez Party has been putting on the need of more open spaces, on the need of more pedestrianised areas. These two have been taken up by Labour. So yes, you can contribute to change in so many ways.
I mean, these like more open spaces, I think it's quite an easy proposal. But there are some proposals in the PN's manifesto which stood out to me as being quite well thought out. And there's the one of the trackless tram and the one of ESGs.
Yes,
right?
of course.
These targets that businesses should reach
yes.
in order to gain certain benefits.
And they are being tied up with a reduction in tax from 35% to 15%.
Yes. Now, the question though is, did the PN have enough time to explain it, or was it, do you feel that all of these proposals were lost in the rush of the campaign, everyone's attention, like there's being, there's lots of people competing for their attention. And
yes, there is. There is also the situation of the impact of the war.
And there's the war, there's the pandemic as well, and there's the war, there's the pandemic as well, still happening. There's lots of things competing for people's attention. With this in mind, launching ideas like this, which require again a lot of thought and a lot of explaining for people to understand them, like the trackless tram, right? You can't just say there's a tram. People need to need to question it, understand where the routes are passing through, and there wasn't much time for a debate on it. Do you think the PN wasted a lot of time before this election on internal disputes within the party, perhaps, and not, rather than focusing on these proposals?
First and foremost, I thank you for the fact that you acknowledge that there are a lot of proposals which are very interesting and very innovative in the PN manifesto. Secondly, it is customary that when an election is called, you publish a manifesto. So it is customary in each and every election that you present to the electorate what your proposals are. So it always happens that these are put forward once the election is called. The Prime Minister opted for a very short election campaign. The Prime Minister also came up with his electoral manifesto 3 weeks into the campaign, as you might recall. So I would rather concentrate on the fact that, in truth, the Labour Party only gave us 2 weeks for us to see what his proposals were, while we tried to use the whole 5-week campaign to explain them. However, Tim, please keep in mind that, as a general rule, the proposals are always inserted in a manifesto which is published once the election is called. In the meantime, obviously, we would have been working on them. These are a result of a lot of work that would have been done. The Nationalist Party came out with their proposals on day one in order for people to have the whole full week, 5 weeks of the election campaign to understand them. The Labour Party decided to waste the first 3 weeks by not explaining to us what their proposals were.
So according to the PN's new statute, if it loses an election, there will be a leadership election.
Yes.
Do you think that
it is, even if irrespective of the result, whatever the result, the PN statute provides that there has to be this process that goes on
after every election, after every general election,
yes.
Exactly. So it will be tested for the first time in a few days' time. Obviously, Bernard Gregg can be uncontested, but always there can be people contesting him. Do you think that there should be a debate on a leadership change, or do you think that come what may, Bernard Gregg should remain the leader?
I think we should remain full square behind our leader. We should now focus on the last days of the campaign. We should remain focused on passing on the message in the last days before the run-up to the election. And these talks about leadership and not leadership are irrelevant at this point in time. Let us also keep in mind, please, Tim, that we also have a situation where we have a Prime Minister who has also difficulties insofar as his cabinet is concerned and his party is concerned. We are seeing strange shifts between Joseph Muscat and Robert Abela. These are also serious concerns.
What do you mean strange shifts?
Well, we have a situation where we have Joseph Muscat, who is campaigning and not contesting, following certain candidates and not others, being put aside and ostracized by the Labour Party in its main events, yet at the same time in smaller events he's being present. What is the situation exactly? How strong is Robert Abela at this point in time? So let us not only discuss the Nationalist Party, because let us also discuss the Labour Party, because there are certain issues.
No, fair enough, but you're contesting with the Nationalist Party, yes, and even though you're saying everyone should be four square behind Bernard Gregg, the reality is, and I'm sure you know it, that in a few days' time there could be a discussion on a leadership election, because the election would have passed If the surveys are correct, it will be a landslide for Labour.
I
Again,
don't
it depends.
believe that it will be a landslide for Labour. But anyway, yes,
Wait,
continue. Sorry.
Why don't you believe
Because I do not believe that there will be a
what constitutes a landslide? Like what would be?
Well, I do not think that there will be a situation, besides the fact that I hope beyond hope that after all that we have gone through, I mean, we had a journalist has been murdered. Does it mean that the Labour Party should win with the same majority? We had a situation where we had 150 scandals every day. Should that result in Labour winning?
There's 100 scandals not every day. It was in total, right?
A total, sorry. We have had a total of 150 scandals, which we heard almost a new one each day. Well, it could have been into me. Do you think, therefore, that because of that, our electorate will not reply to this? Don't you have faith in the fact that our electorate?
Well, there are many considerations that that depend on what people vote for. People are individuals and they decide. There's many factors that decide.
Sure.
But when is the final result? If it's 35,000, should Bernard Gregg stay anyway, or should there be again some kind of changing of the leadership as there was 4 years ago?
I think this debate is absolutely premature. I think we should remain focused on next Saturday. We should remain focused then on what is happening on Sunday. Then after that, we have this debate. For now, it is totally premature.
Do you rule out contesting the leadership election?
I have absolutely no intentions of doing so. My only intention at the moment is to keep on passing on the message that the Nationalist Party is a more viable alternative for each and every one of us.
Are people asking you though to contest?
No, I have
any gauging of interest.
People at the moment are simply focused and working. Each and every one of us are working exclusively in order to put the PN message across. As you rightly said at the beginning, there is a lot of news at the moment going on, so we have this effort, and we're doing this massive effort to make sure the message goes across by having house gatherings, by meeting people, by getting in touch with various associations. This and only this is our aim.
So you mean to say that there's no discussions whatsoever internally about the next stages, what will happen if the PN loses?
I am totally unaware of any such discussions.
Okay. Finally, election, like we said, is in a few days' time. A lot of things going on, lots of manifestos and proposals to read through. What's your final message for supporters or people who may still be on the fence ahead of the vote?
Well, my final message is that we have had a government that has promised us meritocracy, and look what we have. We had a government that has promised to us that there will be transparency, and look what we have. We have had a government that has promised to us that we would be the best in Europe, and look what we have reached and where we are today. We have also had a government who told us that he would look after the way he would be spending our funds, and look what has happened to us today.
So just pause this, just put this in because it just came to me. Robert Abela has recently been saying, asking people to compare the list of candidates on both sides and saying, look, ours are way more competent and way more qualified than the PN's candidates. Do you agree with him?
Well, that's his opinion. I tend to disagree with him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay.
That's what he said. So is it gospel truth because he said so?
No, I'm just wondering what you think.
Of course not. I don't agree with him at all. How can I? Do you think that when you have candidates and members of cabinet who were, sometime before you were explaining about the issue of Rosian Kutayar, do you think that when you have situations where you had so many members of cabinet who had to leave or had to resign, what sort of message did they send to people who aspire to come into politics? Do you think that by their actions, by the fact that they had that outcome, they have encouraged people to look upon politicians favorably? Or have they rather tarnished the reputation of politicians? This is the legacy that we should be talking about. So Robert Abela thinks his set of candidates are better than those of the Nationalist Party. Fine. I tend to disagree. I'm very sorry.
Mm-hmm. So you were saying that the message,
explaining to me why
the PN.
So I first started by explaining as to what Labour had promised us and what they have delivered. They have promised us all these things, and look where we are. On the other hand, the Nationalist Party is primarily proposing an economic vision for tomorrow, which, as you know, is based on the creation of 10 new economic sectors which will become pillars as to our economy. Now we have credibility on this. Because we have credibility on this, because we have already created economic sectors, gaming, aviation, banking, maritime, so many other sectors which are still relevant up to today and which are giving people employment and good jobs up to today. So our vision is now to take it a step further and create new economic sectors that are pillars for our economy. I think there's another important proposal that we are putting forward, which is we are going to start speaking about a living wage, no longer a minimum wage. A minimum wage today is capped at 700 euros, circa. But the minimum wage is created on factors that are not so relevant today, in the sense that today, in order to live, we cannot just have the price of bread, butter, milk. Today, you have telephony, which is a cost. You have internet, which is a cost. You have the fact that even if you want to watch television, you have to pay a cost, which before we didn't used to pay for anymore. You have interest that you have to pay. You have rent that you have to pay. And therefore,
everything is getting more expensive as well.
And everything is getting more. So therefore, studies have shown that the living wage will up the minimum pay of each and every one of us from 700 euros to around 1,000, according to the study by Caritas, or 1,080 euros monthly. This is the leap that we need to make. And this leap now, and this increase, which is almost a 400 euro increase monthly in order to live decently, that is why it's called a living wage, is also capped to pensions, because even they have their problems, they have their medicine bills that they have to pay. Yes, that is also another very important proposal, which is establishing the vision of where we wish to take our country.
Yep.
What do I say also about the issue of youths? Up to some time ago, we had surveys which were telling us that 70% or 60% of youths just wanted to leave the island because they had given up. This is not right. What we wish is, on the contrary, is to encourage youths to go abroad by giving them grants, by giving them assistance, to get new experiences, but to actually then yearn to come back to their country because they have the possibility to live here, to work here, and to have decent living over here.
Joe Giglio,
thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for accepting this interview. Thank you very much for being with us and following us on Lovin Daily. Make sure you follow lovinmalta.com and have an evening full of loving.